Holiday your heart out at Old Navy. Today only, all outerwear and all tees are 50% off. Plus, get 40% off your entire purchase at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Outerwear and tees valid 11/18, 40% valid 11/15 to 11/20. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Aloha and welcome to Aquarian Radio at AquarianRadio.com. My name is Janet Kira Lessin. I'm your host, along with my co-host, Karen Christine Patrick, and our special guest today, Bret Colin Sheppard, and we are going to have a discussion on the X-Files. The show's title today is X-Files Xamined. And this is an episode of We Are Disclosure. And I'm going to get Karen, my co-host, on here. 1 second. Here we go. And she's going to tell you a little bit about today's show. Hi, welcome to the show, Karen. And Bret, I guess, is there with you as well. Go ahead and tell our listeners.
Hello, yes.
Hi. Before we bring you on, Bret, Karen's going to tell us a little bit more about today's show.
Well, of course, people who are fans of science fiction know that the X-Files television series was revisited on Fox, and we don't have television or cable. We got to watch it online. They had the first 2 episodes available online, and we watched it, and we decided to, because Disclosure and mainstream media and all of this is, soft disclosure tied together. What are they revealing? What are they, is this part of soft disclosure? So I'll read you the introduction. We are Disclosure on Aquarian Radio, X-Files Xamined, with Janet Kira Lessin, Karen Christine Patrick, Bret Colin Sheppard, talk about the first and second episode, return of the popular series, The Mainstream View of Conspiracy, UFOs and Aliens, the front line of the experiencer movement, the role of the Internet, Theatrics. That's what this is all about. It's a show, right? Theo-tricks, the tricks of the gods. Our consensus reality show media culture, soft disclosure, Paradigm Galactic, and the much anticipated return of the X-Files has begun. Conspiracy theory on steroids. Is this part of soft disclosure or more? Mainstream Disinfo. And we hope to have fun. It's just a TV show, right?
Yes, it's a TV show. So what did you? Wait, start the intro. Go ahead. Are you done with the intro?
Oh no. We would have played the music, except I believe it's franchised, so we can't play the music. But I have to say that the X-Files theme song, as I've noticed it, whenever there is a UFO story in mainstream news, is played probably the most. That song is played. The truth is out there. The talking heads go out of their way to allude whenever, for instance, I watched the Lake Erie sightings from Michael Lee Hill was on the news, and of course they played that song and they used a lot of puns and things to kind of make it a lighthearted thing when it's really pretty serious. And Michael's his stuff has been seen by millions of people on YouTube. It's very serious. Interesting case. But anyway, we watched, Bret and I watched the first and second episode yesterday.
And I got through the first episode. I have just a streaming TV, and it didn't come through very well. The images were kind of stilted, and I got the word. And I didn't get through the second one. I just got too busy. But we're going to continue this discussion beyond this show. And I'm very curious about what you thought. I just want to address the theme music is copyrighted, and we do want to put this up on YouTube, and so we're very careful not to play copyrighted music because we don't want to infringe on anybody's copyright. But I would love to play that music, and we all know what it sounds like because we've been hearing it since the 1990s and then some. And it is frequently when someone's trying to talk about UFOs and the paranormal and extraterrestrials, they use that wonderful theme song, which we will not play, but we know what it is.
I could hum a few bars if you want. Wee, 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 wee. Yeah. We all know it. Diddly, 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 diddly. Anyway, yeah, we watched it. Bret, you got anything to say about it? When we watched it together as a family, and it was lots of fun.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's any disinfo at all. I think they just really hit it hard, and every bit, every little bit of video clips that they showed, when they were going through all of the conspiracies of the, from 2001 on, basically, and prior to that. But all of that stuff is absolutely the truth, It's absolutely true. And what was interesting about it is the one thing that Karen noticed, is that one of the main characters got rich off of conspiracy theories.
I don't think
and that was the only thing that wasn't true in the whole thing,
Yeah, well, maybe George Norrie, is he rich? I don't know. Or is
not really, no.
Alex rich? I don't know. I mean, they might have an income stream, but I don't know.
Well, they showed this guy he was flying. He had his own personal helicopter and everything else.
I don't think that's happening. No, I don't see that. But yeah, he could be comfortable. And what's wrong with being? It's part of this is entertainment, and that's what our show is. Shows listening education, but because they're not acknowledging it, we just go, well, if you don't believe it, just see it as entertainment. But to me, it's both. It's
what's interesting about it is that they have none of that stuff would have ever come out if it wasn't for all of us on the internet, posting things and having our own minds, and it's very interesting how they use it, to say, hey, just to make a TV show interesting, which is cool and everything. The thing is that those are all very serious things, that they were going through, and then they treat it still like science fiction. Yeah.
Do you want to maybe you and Karen could outline for our listeners some of the key elements? And listeners, this is a spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what the show is and you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to our show today, because we're going to do
if they haven't seen it yet, they don't deserve to see it.
Right. So who wants to do the honors of kind of breaking it down a little bit with the storyline? Do you want to start, Karen, or do you want to start?
Yeah, I feel like the first episode was catch-up. Like they had to catch up from where the series left off, all the conspiracy theories that have come out and are popular from that time. So it was like an auctioneer trying to bid something. It was going fast. And I would suggest if people have an opportunity to see it where they can stop it and start it and start writing down all the keywords. This is something I picked up on other television shows, is that I watched a show where they denied that the theory was real, but they gave you so many keywords that if you went on Google, you'd be down a rabbit hole for quite some time. So if you've not heard of all of these things that were in there, like the prominent ones were like the different things that happened at Roswell, that everything, Roswell's the key, and yet they had another gentleman that said Roswell's a cover-up. So the Roswell case, of course, and that 9/11 was an inside job. This character that they had for the first show was a Alex Jones kind of guy, and he was on some kind of TV show, maybe an internet show, wasn't sure. And he was just they were just saying keywords, this case, that case, this case, this case. It was so much stuff that was in there, and it's too bad you didn't see the background, because if you were watching the characters talk to each other, there was posters and televisions playing in the background that was adding even more information. So that would be something to watch on the series, is two people are talking, and behind them is some kind of map or a poster or some kind of a picture of a UFO or something like that. It's very visually rich with a lot of keys. So it's, kind of fun. Wasn't big surprises for if you're a conspiracy theorist like we are, and if you're up on UFOs and all that. There isn't a lot there that's surprising. Of course, the whole, I'm not sure they're going in a different, as far as like their mainline theory, they're going in a different angle in terms of it not being. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to interject. We'll go back to what you're. Well, it seems like they're trying to make it that. Well, at least I didn't see part 2, so maybe I'm off the mark here. But they were trying to blame it more on there's some inside government forces that are, faking a lot of the extraterrestrial stuff. Maybe I didn't quite get this right, but did they counterbalance that at the end? It was very difficult for me to understand what's going on because my connection was so poor. Or was that just a ploy to get Scully down to listen to him?
I'm not certain.
He was shown the craft, and then first of all, I don't know of any extraterrestrials, human or alien, that are blowing up people's cars as they drive down the road. There was this
young girl, and she had giant scoop marks. I mean, they've talked about the scoop marks that people get, and she had bullet holes practically in her. And people, pictures I've seen of scoop marks are quite a bit smaller, but she was this multiple abductee that apparently had humanoid babies, and then she said too much, and then a spaceship went over her car and blew it up, and
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
No, I know what that means. I know what that is. Basically, they've reversed engineered alien technology, and they're giving a clear signal, that it's the corrupt military-industrial complex that's doing this false alien invasion type thing.
Yeah.
I thought they were saying them. Like, oh, come on, really? So they're trying to say there aren't any extraterrestrials, except for Roswell was the only one that happened?
Yeah, they did say something about how our nuclear bombs kind of attracted the attention of, and that's kind of valid. I actually got to listen to Robert Hastings, who in person, who wrote the book UFO and Nukes, to try to get the right title, and talking about how many times we've had UFOs over, our missile silos and turning them off, like saying, hey, guys, stop playing with the matches. And how there's been sightings and time anomalies and all kinds of weird stuff around where there's been nuclear detonation. And so that's a valid kind of thing, is that there is an interest of the UFOs in when we're trying to blow ourselves up. I think that's kind of a thing there. And so they're saying that we attracted the ET, but it kind of shifted like, okay, so we got some downcraft, and maybe the ET even did it on purpose so that we would accelerate our technology. And then, but at a certain point, it becomes it's humans doing it maybe, and not ET. So that's an interesting premise. It's got some validity in some ways. In some ways, I don't know. It's like, are they going to totally write ET out as an option?
Oh no, not at all. That would be that would be sort of the way the old X-Files went, because they're trying to keep the mystery there and something to chase, So in this case, they're chasing the military-industrial complex to find out the truth past that,
But they're starting with the modern era of extraterrestrials in 47, and they're not addressing the ancient aliens aspect, at least in the first show, and I don't know what you saw in the second show. So, we have over 100 episodes of ancient aliens now, and 5, 6, 7 years of research there, so they're just kind of like throwing that out. And the other thing I thought I took offense to was they shot the gray that was outside of the craft, and I know the inside story on that, and that gray was in fact the survivor, and it wasn't shot. It was taken back to the base, and kept alive for years, so they're not addressing
that
part.
E.B. William Cooper talked about that.
Well, lots of
I'm
people
wondering
talk
why
about
they got to change a significant story like some freaked out guy shoots it. Well, they did have dead bodies to examine in autopsy, but they also had a live one as well. That was like for as much information there is out about what happened at Roswell, could you kind of stick to this story?
Really? What it did portray, though, graphically, is the military insecurity that they felt about the extraterrestrials.
Really?
Well, have you ever read what was it called? Lawrence Spencer's book, which let me pull it up right here. The Gray's name was Errol the Gray. They weren't all that paranoid, just shooting like crazy. There was one that was wounded, died shortly later, and there were three. There were several other bodies. I think there were three
there's four
bodies
crashes, so they had
alive, something like that.
Yeah, they had quite a few specimens. Goodness, if you had a live one, that's your opportunity to learn about another civilization, and that's like a precious, one-of-a-kind artifactual being situation scientifically. The idea that you just plug them like with a gun or something like that's like H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds kind of thing, That's
right.
old school.
It's called Alien Interview, which is about a nurse that had written to Lawrence Spencer and sent him her transcripts from the interviews that she had for years with the alien named, what was her name? Aril, A-R-I-L. She was identified as female. And anyway, it's a wonderful book called Alien Interview, and I've interviewed Lawrence Spencer before on Aquarian Radio Network, and so it seems to be pretty authentic, and it correlates with a lot of other stories. I have a person, T.J. Morris, who has, I'm not going to reveal the details of her story because I'm allowing her to do it, but we were talking a little bit about the show. I was trying to get her on, but she wasn't answering her phone today. But she basically said, yeah, that was really weird that they shot Errol because that was a critical piece of information that the humans wanted to. So this is how they hijack reality. Someone just looks at the show will get so wrapped up in all the other details, and they'll go, and then like I remind them, hey, they shot the Gray, and oh yeah, that's right, they shot and killed her. No, that's the whole point. They didn't shoot and kill the Gray.
Yeah.
They have Grays. They've had interactions with Grays. They're not going to just shoot them and then do an autopsy. They already had 3 dead bodies. So, and their top military that on retrieval aren't going to be panic-stricken because the reality is we've known about extraterrestrials going back thousands of years.
And they had military manuals. They had procedures for how to handle this stuff. They've even started to disclose that there's procedures and manuals and what happens if you find this and various crashes. James Clarkson, who I knew from MUFON in Washington State, wrote a book about a crash that happened in Westport, Washington State, on the coast. And there was a, methodical kind of thing that went on where they, told the public, whatever story would make them not be curious. And they went through, a methodical way of basically retrieving this because this has been done over and over and over. The military's trained on how to retrieve its own planes that crashed. They've got procedures. They're just not going to go, and freak out and mishandle it. Maybe sometimes they do. It is the military. But generally speaking...
Hollywood thing they do. These highly trained soldiers go, there's a boogeyman, and shoot them. I think that's just, that's bullshit. Sorry to say that.
It sure is.
I'm not certain what the plot point was either. Maybe, like you said, Bret, maybe they're just showing military insecurity.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They were showing how insecure the military is and how they overreact at times, and that's exactly what they're showing. Because basically, it's the downfall of humanity. This type of insecurity, and it goes hand in hand with religion. that's in the military-industrial complex. And it's this belief, that there's just one supreme thing or whatever, and it's not complex at all. It's just that's the way it is. And they have this black and white way of looking at things that has stemmed from the Roman Empire,
Right.
Well, yeah, adversary creation. You've said that a lot. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, they needed something to chase.
Yes.
That's a plot point. That's for drama, right?
Right.
Absolutely. They are basically chasing the ghost of whether it's the military-industrial complex pulling a big fast one on everyone, or if aliens are actually behind it. So they're keeping that mystery to make the show interesting, and mystery sells. It's just the plain old truth. They found that it does not sell at all. It just lays there on the floor because it's the truth. And when they have all of these really cool complexities, within their show, it makes it very interesting all the way to the end. And like in the last the old X-Files, they basically his sister was taken by aliens, and they sort of carried on with that, with the story that his son was also taken. Him and Scully's son was also taken up in the ship because he was actually a hybrid.
And that's what they got into in the second show, was hybridization.
Yeah. Yes, and if that touches on the ancient alien theory, that would be it. The aspect of DNA alteration and hybridization.
Yeah, that checks back to Sitchin, right?
Yes.
There's some
Right.
kind of
That all goes back to the ongoing saga. Well, I didn't watch for the first season, the first series, which I think they're saying is from 23 years ago. Wow, is that really 23 years ago?
Man, that's they looked like they just stepped right through time and just the same. I mean, they whatever art of makeup and
except for they're older and sexier.
Yeah, how did they do that? That's pretty amazing. They don't have a wrinkle on them, and they haven't aged. I mean, if they were average people, they wouldn't look like Hollywood stars that haven't aged, and they're worried about that. They would just be natural people, and maybe don't dye their hair anymore. And don't. I mean, she's a doctor. She's not.
I actually met David Duchovny in Irvine. He was playing basketball with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and what's her name, Queen Latifah, and all them. It was an MTV basketball thing. Yes, and I met him, and he was just like he is in the X-Files. That is his personality.
Mhm.
Kind of chill.
So he's
absolutely.
Just shows
he's
up.
one of us. He's very much a nerd. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, let's go back to this show. So what else happened? So they had this poor contactee that had her being, super paranoid about her life, and she met with a horrible demise. They tested her for DNA and ran her whole DNA, what do they call it, sequencing, and there was something kind of dropped, the hint dropped, like we need to protect her because we have a child. I missed the whole child point that Mulder and Scully had a relationship. Can you kind of refresh my memory and catch us up? What happened? They had a baby, and then it was taken on board the ship. And what happened? Did they ever get it back, or is the child up and being raised by the ETs, or what's going on?
Well, one thing about the child was he had some kind of episode where his eyes turned black, so it's like that, going back to that black-eyed children kind of thing, and his face got all alien-looking. That was one flashback. And another flashback, wasn't he floating or something?
He was being abducted again by the aliens.
Yeah, so apparently had this child, and he was, going through being abducted, and maybe he was a hybrid or something was going on. And then I don't think they got into the scene. Did they get into the scene where he was finally taken and never given back? I missed that. But eventually he's taken and he's not given back, just like the sister.
Yeah, what Scully found out in her test is that in vitro, there was genetic ET DNA left in her.
Yeah, so in her own system.
Yeah, she was impregnated by extraterrestrials. Yes.
So we're not sure.
It was his sperm and her egg, and then mixed with extraterrestrial DNA. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yes.
That's what they're kind of intimating at, yes.
Yeah, well, Cynthia Crawford is a girl hybrid that I've interviewed, and her father was in the military. She was created because of experiment in our military. She was revealed to her that she has a mix of her mother and her father and alien DNA. Just like we can do that with animals, we can make a cat glow, by putting lost creatures' DNA into a cat. You can have, turkey in your recipe.
Well, yeah. They had, if you recall, the Star Child skull that Lloyd Pye was the researcher there before he passed away, and they found a skull that was very, very unusual. It was 900 years old, I believe, and it had mitochondrial DNA, I do believe, of human female, and was gestated with a human female, but there was an intermix of the DNA to where there was 3 parents, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And this skull was so unusual. It was lighter than a human skull. It had these fibrous tissues that would have made it more stronger than a human skull. It was kind of smaller in stature than a human would be for its age, which I don't recall at the time of death. But, there's many, 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 many stories of this. And what kind of bothers me, like why I don't even watch television, is the fact that they'll have plenty of research online. Someone can take, and this is what turned me off of the series in the first place, was there's plenty of research that's straight up facts, but they've got a twist in it, and I don't think it's a plot point issue. They make it murkier. It's not just for the sake of they got a monster to chase or something, but they actually, hang on just a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he doesn't know we got a mute button on our phone. So I'm trying to. We're using a new set of phones here, but and yeah. So they have every reason and every tons of information on something in order to be able to say factually how this thing is, and still make it very interesting and dramatic, and yet they'll make a twist on it. They'll take it off in a slightly different direction, which isn't accurate, like when they shot the gray alien. So. That's what turned me off from the series in the first place. I'm not a big fan of. I used to be a huge fan of science fiction, and then I found out that reality was heck more interesting than fiction. I learned early on that, for instance, I was a big Star Trek fan, and that Gene Roddenberry was tipped off by a lot of researchers, insider researchers, black ops researchers, channeling groups. NASA insiders, and I began to realize that these science fiction programs were part of a maybe long-term, what we would call soft disclosure. So they decided a while back during another science fiction era, which was the War of the Worlds, that was done by, Orson Welles. And he did a radio program, and everybody thought it was real, and they freaked out and everything. And the Brookings Report studied, humanity in the 50s and 40s were maybe not ready, especially after the war era. They weren't really ready to hear about beings from outer space. It would register negatively for them. And so the Brookings Report and other Robertson panel, you can look these up, they became the guidelines for how were we going to go ahead and reveal to the public what it is that was going on. So what some insiders have said, including Colonel John Alexander, is that we already are in soft disclosure, and it is coming through our culture is what Ken Johnston, who we work with, Bret and I work with, he said that if a younger child saw an alien come out of a craft, he would say, "Oh, that's my friend. That's E.T." That's, there's a different. We're in a different era of awareness, and yet when I look at what they reveal on mainstream media and how they reveal it, they're always skewing off point. Like they don't stick with the story as like 10 Research has the story playing out pretty much in the same pattern. And yet when they present it in media in some kind of show, they add these twists and turns that are murk the thing up, make it murkier instead of clearer. So if they were using mainstream to do disclosure, I'm not too happy with the disclosure that they're presenting because it's imbalanced. It's always scary, right? It's in what I call the paranormal ghetto of, this genre of, information, whereas, contacting extraterrestrial civilizations would include many different genres of study and media to anthropology. That's one of the reasons why Ancient Aliens is a real good crossover, because it went through the gateway of archaeology and anthropology instead of the usual, pseudoscience and that sort of concept. Like, is it or not?
Yeah, it'd almost be more accurate to say the paranoia ghetto.
Yeah. Well, that's what sells.
Well, I was reading while you were discussing it that DNA does go between, all the different types of surrogate mothers and another woman's egg and all that stuff. So it does seem to transfer back and forth between the child and the host mother or the mother that carries it. So if Scully had a child that was a mix of human and alien DNA, so she would now have alien DNA within her as she carried that child in her body. So that seems to be backed up with modern science.
Well, in esoteric circles, that it's very important for them to put out that the goddess is important in our society. So basically that we come from the womb, of Earth, or from the goddess, or from a woman, So they're very esoteric when they're putting out these themes, to the TV shows or the movies or whatever, and it's strange, but they almost get a kick out of putting out their beliefs, their true beliefs, in the form of science fiction, while they're selling a reality that's complete fiction.
I want to bring up a term. I want to bring up an idea. A while back I came up with, there's a term that people use called consensus reality. So it's this idea that we all agree that reality works a certain way, and if you have an idea outside that would be considered a fringe idea or an anomaly idea. And I added the word, I did a little essay where I added the word consensus reality show. Hello?
I'm still there. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we always have fun with sound. Okay, I added the word consensus reality show, like a reality show, right? Because a lot of our consensus reality is created through media, and that's really important to step back and look at. Yeah, it's a fun show and everything, but what is the consensus reality points? Because, of course, they have the skeptic character, and they start out to do something, and suddenly that evidence goes away. So it's like they always have to maintain a plausible deniability, so it's just a show. So for people getting too disturbed by the information, they have to throw in the plausible deniable character or the disappearance of evidence or keep it a mystery, because we're not ready for the straight dope, right? A lot of people are not ready for the straight information, so they're using this method with shows and things like that to kind of warm us up to, saying that we can't handle the truth, of course, and they're making a way for us to handle the truth, but they're kind of soft-pedaling it, basically.
Right. Well, what happened in the second show? Because I missed it. Maybe you can fill in our listeners. So the first show was kind of catching up. The first part reminded me of the, the series Taken. I don't know if you ever got to watch Taken by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
It was made around the year 2000, and they were kind of giving us everything up until the year 2000 about the history of the UFO field going back to Roswell. So that was a little bit like that. But where did they go after the poor woman was killed by the car?
Let's see. After the woman was killed by the car, in the second episode, they showed a scientist that was working in a lab, for the government, and he had committed suicide because he had a sound in his head, like a high-pitched noise or whatever, and it drove him insane. And so he committed suicide, and then there was a mystery of why or where that sound came from, and basically it led them to a man that was in the other room on the videotape, that was actually a hybrid that had sent that signal and had, I guess, made him crazy, or he couldn't control it or something, and so it made the scientist crazy. And they were actually doing genetic research in the lab that the scientist was working at. And so the next show was focused more on the alien hybrid aspect.
Yeah, they had this hospital with these children with various genetic anomalies and
a bunch of failed experiments, yeah.
Yeah, or possibly failed experiments. And then this one hybrid, a young man, teenager, is trying to find his sister. So at the end, it got a little bit like, Escape from Witch Mountain, where the brother and sister and they're united and they're going to escape and that sort of thing. So it was about deeper into the hybridization issue and talking about DNA and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's where they were going with that one. So it's kind of starting up. Probably will be another episode as we see what happens to these hybrid children and whatnot. So it was kind of stay tuned to the next episode cliffhanger.
I wonder if, approaching any people that's in this the people in the field, like the researchers, I wonder where they're getting their information besides the internet. I wonder if they're actually talking to anybody that's working with
yes, that's a good point. They're getting it from the internet, mostly from us, from our radio shows,
right.
from the conspiracy talk shows and Coast to Coast, and also they're getting it directly from the astronauts and from events that actually took place that, even though there's no proof, it's obviously that they did what they did, So they're getting it from, different aspects of life and also from the morphogenic field.
Oh, good point.
And we don't even have to. They don't even have to see it on a radio show or TV show or something. They have psychics and sentinels that are getting the information from our dreams and whatever.
Yeah, we have an interconnected psychic life. We have a morphogenetic field. It's sometimes called a Akashic record, but it's where all of the information, all the stories, all the archetypal information, it all aggregates into one big, what one researcher, A.R. Borden, called the cumulus. That's where I learned from him the term the cumulus, and it literally is the cloud, like we have on our phone apps. We have the cloud, which is like I was working on a document today, and it's up in the cloud, and I downloaded it to my phone, and I worked on it, and it got changed up there, and I don't have to have it in my phone, that our technology actually mirrors. The more our technology is advancing, and it works on the level of thought, because thought is a realm of it's an energy field. Then basically all our stories, go up in this cumulus because it's really very much a basic thing. Rupert Sheldrake, noticed that species adapt and they learn and they evolve. And what's causing them to do that? Well, they have a shared realm of energy where all their experiences aggregate, And, the whole story of the hundreds monkey, and they had this monkey, and it washed its pick up sweet potato, and it washed it in the stream, and none of the other monkeys did it, and then the next one did, and the next one did. And pretty soon, not only were all the monkeys on that island doing it, but all the monkeys on the next island were doing it without even being shown how to do it. And that's because they had morphic resonance, and they all learned, hey, yams taste better without dirt all over it. So that's that adaptation. And it builds and it grows because species evolve and they grow and they, so that's the information base is that shared resonance, that shared information that a species has. It's called a biokind, biomind. Well, humanity not only has that for ourselves in our modern era, but we have that from our ancestral days. Mm-hmm. We also have that from our ancestors that were from space. Mm-hmm. And I think in the last, what's happening to us consciously is we're remembering that. We're remembering it as a species. We've had a period of time, and I always kind of say it like this. If you've gone, you're listening to your radio, and you go through a tunnel, and your radio goes off, dims down. And as you get to the end of the tunnel, the radio kind of pops back on, or your cell phone. I think we've gone to an area of space or some kind of matrix or something where it's the same thing. We were all very telepathic with each other. Language was just used to formalize, things and agreements. And we still have that latent telepathy with each other and even other species. Sometimes we know what our dog's thinking. And then what's happened is we're coming out of that energy, suppression of our psychic capacity, and all of a sudden we're more in tune. And it's driving us just a little bit nuts because we're not used to it, But we're coming more in tune with each other, more in tune with the planet, more in tune with animals, and also able to have telepathic contact with other beings and other intelligences.
Yes, before NASA unknowingly took pictures of the morphogenic field in space and on the moon, and literally, it's in every picture, even if we take a picture of the garden or something. We have. Are you there?
Yeah, we're listening.
Okay. Yes, before we literally took pictures of the morphogenic field, we took pictures of all of the archetypes.
Pictures of the morphogenic field.
Within the image is an ever changing construct. So every time you snap the picture, you see a different picture. So when we did that with our digital modern technology, we were able to see all of the archetypes within space images. And so far it's just me that's seeing them. I'll just say that. But
so either you're on good drive, you better
No. He was kind of the first guy, and now we've got more and more people in our anomaly circles who are not only seeing interlaced images of, like we work with the Lunar Anomaly Research Society and Mars Anomaly Research Society, and people are looking at NASA photos, and they're finding statues, they're finding ruins.
Santa Claus on the moon. They're finding Theseus and different gods and goddesses and the whole works.
At first people were seeing, structures and things like that. But as we've had more and more people look at these images, they're now seeing interlaced images. So
you're saying Santa Claus on the what was Santa Claus?
Santa Claus has a lot to do with it.
Oh my gosh, yes, that goes all the way back to Odin and all of the archetypal stories, of this God-man-like creature, that would either come and wreak havoc on a town, or sacrifice something, or be extraordinarily giving, and make give the whole town water and all that jazz. So there's this mythology, that kind of correlates in the movies with the modern Lord of the Rings Gandalf character or something like that. And so these archetypes go.
He was supposed to look like the Grand Wizard, and
Yeah.
Now, the inky is an important thing because it probably has a lot to do with the art that we're seeing in the morphogenic field. And it goes all the way back, to the time when we couldn't take pictures of it. We didn't have any digital technology or anything. But the way we used to get those ideas and everything about archetypes and gods and goddesses is through our dreams and through our psyche and through a group, the morphogenic field with the whole group.
A ritual or a kind of village
literally
ritual
through telepathy. But initially, it would come from the moon, or from space, probably the moon since we're on Earth, and it would. And the lunar cycles would influence people in different ways, and they would basically come up with different archetypes, and sometimes literally they would come from the moon to Earth. Our ancestors or our cousins or ancient cousins would come and present themselves to the people, and their own ideas about the archetype would come forth, like you're an angel or you're the devil or something like that, or you're a god. Yeah, so that's pretty much how they influenced people in the past, and just about anything goes in that field. There's no rules, it's all about perception. So, today we can take pictures of it and literally have evidence of these things that our ancestors felt and they couldn't see,
or saw.
Yeah, or they see them.
And they tried to communicate them in all of the images that they carved on the rocks and painted on the walls of caves and stuff. I mean, this was media before, our time, right?
Yes.
When we had television and all of that, they had their stories, they had their entheogenic experiences, they had their meditations and things. That was their television, pretty much. And now we have this shared media thing that has the biggest goal of television, don't ever forget this, is to sell you something.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to buy products. They want you to buy services. And so the whole, as far as a media-driven person, the commercials is the show. And the show is just to keep your attention on the box long enough to get the commercial so you will react and you will go buy that product and that T-shirt and get that I Want to Believe T-shirt and, the swag and the things connected to the show. Ultimately, it is a money-driven media system in order to sell culture. It sells us a media culture that says that you won't get the girl if you don't use the right toothpaste.
Yeah, they're all selling. They're still selling the oldest things there is. They're selling sex, and they're selling hatred, and they're selling jealousy and greed and all of these things, because those are the baseline, most important things that they're selling. It's not really about the product, but how you feel in order to provoke you to buy the product.
So we're constantly being bombarded with programming from all directions, including images from people that are long dead to people that want to sell us toothpaste. So what can we do? We're looking today at disclosure and how it may come forth into the public awareness and in what form. And how are we going to differentiate and make these determinations for ourselves, what is real and what is false, or what serves us or what doesn't serve us? How are we going to come to this consensus reality? It isn't just a reality that we concede to that is existing, but one that is a win for all, where people can get their needs met and have, we have in our Constitution that we have the right, the pursuit of liberty and happiness. Pursuit of happiness, right? We have liberty and pursuit of happiness. Really have that anymore? Can we get that back? And how will this emerge with this propaganda and possible disclosure that's coming? And we only have like 10 minutes left. So,
okay, we definitely, just to be quick, we need to break the the hypnosis, like Karen always says, we need to break the hypnosis for starters, and basically re-educate people on how to actually have their own feelings, so that they can determine and re-educate themselves and look and search, not research, search for their teacher.
Yeah.
So you're saying that how do we re-educate people? What's one doable step?
Well, it's basically a culmination of what each person has learned in their own perception, in their own search, as a clue, to offer that as a clue, if this helps you or not, and then they can take that clue and maybe it'll trigger something inside them to make their own search and give them themselves their own idea of what to search for.
Well, one of the things I did was deep, intense meditation and psychotherapy to help me figure out what was going on, and reflection. One of the things that I advise everybody is to meditate every day. And they go, meditate, what's that? Well, it's basically shutting out the continual influx of information and energy and going inward into yourself and listen to your own still voice and listen to your own wisdom. We all have wisdom. And, have a conversation with your subpersonalities and in dialogue with yourself and reflect upon this nonstop input of information and just let it stew for a while and then come up with your own answers instead of always looking outside of yourself for someone to tell you what to think and feel and believe. That's what I get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I got to say something because they had over and over the poster, "The Truth is Out There." And as a meditating person and as a person contemplating all of this stuff and as an experiencer, at one point, I don't remember the scene exactly, but somebody said the truth is in here, and they pointed.
It was just before the Indian man was going to give David Duchovny a Hummer.
Oh, okay, great. He points his finger and he says the truth is in here, and I would say that's the biggest philosophical difference I have on most aspects of disclosure is we're looking outward for stuff, and we only have our own body and eyes and mind to work with to understand the world. I think there's some great wisdom that plops spirit inside of a vessel that's called a human body, and to have a mind and have experiences, what I call the human iteration. And I think what I would say is ultimately it's a search for who am I, and what is this cosmos about from my own perspective. And I think these shows are fun and everything, but I think at the end of the day, trust yourself, trust your own understanding, learn for yourself, educate yourself, grow, meditate, go on a plan of trying to make yourself a better person, and then people want to change the world to make the world a better place. It starts with inside yourself.
Yeah, ask yourself, how do I perceive this?
Yes.
So I'm going to bring it back to disclosure one more round. So the disclosure may come from introspection and reflection. But what do you think about things like the Jimmy Kimmel show that had both Obama and Clinton, and they're both talking about Area 51, and Hillary came out and said she's going to investigate the Roswell incident in Area 51. What are your thoughts on those things that are coming out right now? What's going on?
Well, they shouldn't bother because it's already been investigated a long time ago by Eisenhower.
So just tell us what they found.
Yeah, just tell us what they really found, and quit acting like it's still a mystery, because it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
I would like to say that. Yeah, I already know that. I already feel that the disclosure they're going to give us is going to be what I call a controlled burn. In other words, it's going to be information that. And there was a gentleman from a website called Veterans Today. His name is Preston James, and he was told that they want a disclosure that keeps that doesn't upset the natural order. And I thought, wow, that's really revealing. What does that mean? Kind of drove me back to the debate in the medieval times of the divine right of kings. You know, they thought that was a natural order.
Yes, it was also in the Brookings Report. You know, that Ken always says it. You know, that basically if an advanced civilization meets a lesser civilization, then that lesser one will dissipate. You know.
So, yeah, I think the disclosure from what I kind of see, I've said the proof is in the pattern and it's peer-to-peer, meaning that the pattern of disclosure from them visiting us is that they visited people from all over the world, every kind of economic situation, through all kinds of means, abduction, telepathy, contactee. It's a worldwide phenomenon because they're trying to let us get used to them peer-to-peer, meaning as we have contact and we begin to understand, you know, who and what they are, and we share with each other, that's the disclosure I believe that will be the most effective one, is us disclosing to each other and to ourselves we are disclosure. That's why I say that.
Yeah, it's absolute, you know, nonsense that we have, you know, starving people and in the name of balance and all this jazz. Basically, all we need to do is become human beings again, you know, and not upset everybody, you know, about everything all the time. And the thing is about what the military-industrial complex has done in all these people, through their insecurity and their religions, have scared the crap out of people to control them, you know. And it's not their job to do that.
Well, it's interesting on the episode I watched that they did mention problem, reaction, solution, which I think was probably coined by David Icke. So that was, you know,
yes.
So they're constantly doing that as a control mechanism for all of our population and to keep us in. They mentioned also the false flag possibility. So somebody was doing their homework and putting it out there. We have like 4 minutes. I know you're not all psychics able to predict the future, but just knowing what you know, what do you think we're going to know by the end of 2016 that we didn't know at the end of 2015?
We are going to know everything about the moon.
I agree.
About the moon, okay.
That's our mainline research, and we did a prediction show on Aquarian Radio, and my prediction for 2016 was a need to tell. There's just so many people who are anxious, who have information, they have artifacts, they have all kinds of correlating data that are just dying to tell before they go of what they know. And the mechanisms for them being able to reveal that are happening. They're getting bolder. They're finding each other on the internet and supporting each other, and they want to tell because they've seen how our consensus reality show has gone, where we have less freedom and we have economic stagnancy and we have people afraid of each other. And when they, you know, people are saying, oh, those guys over there, they're causing the problem, or those guys over there, look up the chain, look up the pyramid, find out the economic statistics that say that the elite at the top has literally vacuum sucked, you know, capital provisions that's needed for humanity up, and you know, they don't have any sense of reality the way other people live. And the rest of us can't even formulate households or support households or raise children properly. And we you know, you get a college education and you go work at Starbucks. I mean, this is our everyday reality, and if we don't like it, we need to find out why it is the way it is. And I don't necessarily think watching TV is the greatest way, but this is an interesting project that they're doing with this show.
Well, what about the Internet? Is it an interesting way of doing it, or you don't? I mean, is it polluted too much, or is it more clean and efficient?
I think
very.
You guys need to go look at what Jimmy Church Fade to Blog said, because he felt kind of like in that first episode of this show, it's like he's been going down all these rabbit trails, and then they just threw them all on that one show, and he's like, did we all get guided to believe all this stuff that the mainstream's telling us? What I know is that is it's important to pick a topic and research deeply, because it will show that there's these layers, what one of our astronauts said, protective layers of the truth. You know, what does truth need protective layers for? If you go deep enough into it, you'll find out that there's this baseline reality, this implicate order that underlies all our reality construct, that this false matrix is built on top of. But it's pretty fragile, because it requires us being invested in it. And we're beginning to pull out our investment and belief that the system's going to take care of us, and that's why we're having system collapse, which is not scary if you know that we could build something better.
Well, and they've immobilized us, you know.
We agreed to have a 1-hour show, so we're on our last minute here. Boy, that went fast, huh? So, Karen, I would like you to find that link. I'll put it on today's show about the Jimmy Church reaction. I am going to include the Veterans Today column, Disclosure of what Fox Mulder isn't telling us. I'll put that link on our site. Well, this is just the beginning of We Are Disclosure series, and we're going to continue and do this on an ongoing, semi-regular basis. So if anybody out there has any information you'd like to contact us, if you're an investigator, if you'd like to come on the show, if you have a burning share you want to do with our audience, our listeners are out there waiting for your story. If you're an experiencer, whatever, please contact us at Aquarian Radio, HUUARIAN radio@gmail.com. One final word from the two of you, and then I'm going to play the outro. What would you like to say to our listeners? Let's start with Bret.
I just want to say thank you, and I am very, very sure that people will start coming out of their shells in the military-industrial complex, and people that have experienced many things and have seen many things will start coming out. I know that is going to happen.
Karen, final words.
Yeah, if you're an experiencer and you've had things happen to you that are like on these shows and stuff, you are the best interpreter of your own experience. Don't give your power away to other people too far away from you who look down on you and think you're a specimen. You are a human being having an extraordinary experience. Learn more about it for yourself.
Oh, and Karen, we're going to be back tomorrow. And could you tell our listeners about our show tomorrow, which is going to be an hour earlier? Yes, I was on a show about a year or so ago with Ruth Ann Armatifio. She's a wonderful, wise woman about planetary issues, and the series on that is Planetary Solutions. We're bringing on people, to talk about positive stuff and how can we have a more positive future. And we're hitting the basic income guarantee, and the topic is what would the basic income guarantee do for you? So every single person, every citizen of the United States, for example, having an extra $1,000 a month given to them, how would that change your life? Well, it sounds like an exciting show, so I will get that page up there for our listeners before tomorrow morning, and Karen's going to get that information to me, and it'll be me and Karen, and what was our guest name again?
Ruth Ann Armatifio, and we'll have Charlotte Rose One also with us.
Oh, and Rose One. Okay, excellent. That's right. There'll be 4 ladies tomorrow. All right. Well, that's the end of another show that went very fast, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today on We Are Disclosure on Aquarian Radio, and this has been Janet Kira Lessin and Bret Colin Sheppard and Karen Christine Patrick. We all had 3 names. Nice blessing. And have a great day or evening or whatever time it is, wherever you are.
Bye.
Thank you.
Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.